Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, comic book fan. Welcome to another episode of the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club. For the audio version of the podcast, head on over to your favorite podcasting app, search for VM Campos, and subscribe. This is the series where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection on the following 5 dimensions: cover art, interior art, plot, and enjoyability of the book on a scale of 1 to 5. Spoiler alert, I will be going to the various pages of this comic, but you are encouraged to buy the original book yourself. Support your local comic book shops, your favorite creators and companies. It's worth it. This week I'm reading Undiscovered Country #1, published by Image Comics in 2019. Let's get started. So a little bit about this comic book. It takes place in the future, 30 years after the United States has closed itself off from the rest of the world. I found that basic plot highly intriguing, fascinating, a little scary, and just a great hook to get me to read the book, so I did, and let's break it down. The cover is by Camuncoli and Orlandini. It's a very beautifully graphically designed cover. We've got stark red and white. It's basically a map of North America. We see Canada, we see Mexico. But the main continental United States is completely whited out. It's just missing from the map. The land masses are in red tones, and the US is completely missing. It's kind of a haunting image to see here. The United States of America missing on the map. You see everything else. The logo of the book, Undiscovered Country, features an American flag plus aspects of the stars within the logo, and the logo looks distressed. The word country is in a distressed way. It's fractured. So this cover is just evocative. It's like, it gets me thinking, like, what is this book about? The United States gone from the world? How could this be? So right away for those feelings that it gives me, I give this a 5 out of 5. It's a really interesting cover. It gets you to pick it up, to want to check out the book. Interior art is by the same artists. The interior art, the very first page, is a wonderful shot of a helicopter coming out of the clouds through the Pacific Ocean. We meet the cast of characters very quickly. The style of art, the characters are realistic. It's a realistic style of art. There are some very sweeping shots throughout the book. There is the transport helicopter reaching the border of the United States. Literally, the border of the coast of California is a huge wall adorned with gun turrets, lookout towers, radio towers, and of course, the flag. It's a fascinating, terrifying 2-page spread, which fits the whole concept of the book. When I started to read about what's this book about, the United States is closed off from the rest of the world. That could never happen. Well, the author at the back of the book sort of portrays a possible divergent future where that could happen. And we'll get to the plot in a moment. The art, it's amazing. It's a 5 out of 5. There are these tones that we see throughout the book that are pinks and purples. There's like a dreaminess to it. There's a poor kid who dies of the sky virus, blue pouring from all of his orifices, contrasted with the current situation about trying to reach the United States. And it goes back and forth through the past and the present, and it does a great job of anatomy, of scenery. We see Istanbul, we see Athens, we see various parts of the United States, and it's a great type of art style. I really enjoyed it. It's got realism, it's got a great cinematography to it, very nice interior art. The plot, I don't want to give anything away, but there is a little bit of a future history at the back of the book that I'll read just a little bit of. A timeline of the sealing of the United States of America. The following events, when viewed through the lens of history, paint a clear picture of a nation preparing to close itself off from the world. Pressures internal and external, created a scenario that was at the time unthinkable, but now seem all but inevitable. July 20th, 2029, 0 day, the ceiling, the day that the borders closed, the day the world lost America, perhaps forever. One day, one single act by the country's leaders, but the seeds of that catastrophe had been sown so many years before. So it gives you sort of 8 years before the ceiling, what is happening with rising tariffs with China, a brutal recession, military buildup, power grid failures, and Project Aurora begins, where the nation is sealed off from the rest. So based on that, the plot, I love it. It's a 5 out of 5. I was really sold by just that cover, by reading a little bit of the synopsis. As I started to read it, I felt something that this could happen. This shouldn't happen, but it could happen. And then when we have the pilot of the aircraft, everyone, let me be the first to welcome you to the United States of America. And it's a huge walled off fortress. Chilling. So I love that part of the plot and then how things change. Now, again, I won't give it away. However, I do have to say how then it turns when they actually land in the United States. I am not liking that. I don't want to give anything away. I really have to drop it down to a 2 out of 5 once the events of what are happening in the nation happen. I don't like it. It's too outlandish. The part about the nation closing itself off from the world, about global epidemics of diseases that are ravaging the populace, and the only cure is in the United States. Okay, that's a little bit more believable. But then what happens when you're in the nation? I'm not enjoying it. So a 5 out of 5 on the basic plot, but a 2 out of 5 on what I've read so far. Now, I like the final reveal on the final page of someone pointing at you with a famous phrase. I won't give it away again, but we'll see where it goes. I kind of like, to some degree, these alternative history tales. Therefore, the enjoyability of the book, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. The art is good, cover and interiors. The plot is mostly good, and I kind of like the first half of it better than the second half. So that'll bring it down just a little bit. But I'm curious to see what the next issues are about. I will preview the next issue cover, which looks also amazing, but you don't know what's going on there, so don't worry about it or go read it yourself. So this was overall enjoyable. Undiscovered Country, #1. So once again, if you'd like to subscribe to the audio version of the podcast, head on over to your favorite podcasting apps, Google Play, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcast, all over the place. I'm there, anywhere that you like your podcasts. Just search for VM Campos and subscribe. Consider going to Patreon, patreon.com/VMCampos. For $1, you'll get access to all the exclusive stuff, such as my weekly top comic book picks video. At the $2 range, I will mail you a comic book from my collection as thanks. I'll even sign it if you want. Or simply follow. Follows are free. Patreon.com/VMCampos. This week I read Undiscovered Country #1, published by Image Comics in 2019. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.